So Sarah, it's 5:30, so we have a quorum. So why don't we call the meeting to order?
Absolutely.
So with that, the meeting to order, we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Everybody ready?
Yes.
I pledge allegiance
Allegiance
to the flag
flag
of
the United States
of America,
and to the
to the
republic
republic
for which it
for
stands,
which it stands,
one nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice
liberty
for all.
and
justice
justice for all.
for all.
All right, thank you. And next roll call. Sarah, if you want to take roll call.
Chair Benson,
Here.
Vice Chair Liu,
Present.
Commissioner Romero,
Here,
Commissioner Tech,
Present.
Commissioner Patterson. He says he's absent. You know, there's,
All right, thank you. Rotation of chair and vice chair. So I guess it's my turn to be chair, and Anitha, welcome. You are vice chair for this year.
Okay, thank you.
And anybody have any questions on that? There's no questions. Move on to public comment. You don't have anybody from the public on? Can you tell, Sarah?
I don't see anyone. There's someone connecting to audio. Give me 1 minute to see if that's Commissioner
Okay.
Patterson.
That might have been me because I was trying on a different computer before.
Okay. Nope, we don't have any public comment.
All right, so if there's no comment, we'll move on to the minutes. So the approval of minutes from October 25. How does that, Sarah, real quick question, how does that work with only two of the commissioners here who were there for those minutes?
I would assume we
I
abstain.
believe, yes. So I believe if the two of you will approve it, then the minutes can go forward.
Okay, so I'll motion to approve the minutes.
I second it.
Thank you. All in favor? I vote aye.
Aye.
And then motion passes. The minutes are approved. All right, moving on to the draft minutes of the staff report. Is that correct? Or is that the same? That's the same thing, right?
Yes,
Okay.
that was just the attachment of the minutes.
Copy that. Okay. So item number 7, introduction of new commissioners. So if the new commissioners can, we'll go around the table. So we'll start with you, Anitha. You can introduce yourself and tell us, a little bit of your background, and then we'll go to Miguel.
All righty. Well, thanks. Thanks for the welcome, and to the city staff as well. I've been talking with Sarah for a couple of years now on different issues, and also, I guess we don't have any members of the public, but a little where I am right now in terms of current location. I'm a resident in India, of course, and have been in the Coachella Valley for about a decade. And just happy to be here to help the citizens and the city sort out some of our sustainability issues. I see in front of us a host of opportunities with all of the construction that we have going on. And then, of course, we have our little worries that some little, some big, that we need to sort out. So hopefully I can make a difference there. In terms of my work and career and background, I'm a professional engineer, chemical engineer, graduate certificate in sustainable communities, and all these various degrees. Worked as an environmental professional for many, many decades, still do that work. I do it because I love it. And I volunteer not just on this commission, but now, but also as a part of the AB 617 Environmental Justice Group that is working in the Eastern Coachella Valley on air quality improvements. And so I've been, contacting the city and bothering them about some of those issues. So hopefully now that I have the role of a commissioner, I can do more to not just help advance air quality, but also some of the other issues. So if there's anything I can do, just don't hesitate, just let me know. And I'm here happy to help, whether it's the public or other commissioners or the city staff. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Anita, and welcome again. And we're looking forward to hearing from you and your ideas and what you can contribute.
Sure, thank you.
Miguel, welcome.
Thank you, Chair. So my name is Miguel Romero. I've lived in Indio my entire life outside of the 3 years I was in college. Besides that, born and raised and love this community. So when I graduated, I decided to come back here. Since then, I've worked with Assembly Member Eduardo Garcia. I cover environmental justice and housing issues with the Assembly Member. So that's where I'm getting a lot of my experience from. I'm looking forward to working with all of you to try to really meet the goals set forward in the sustainability plan and try to move us forward in the most efficient way possible when considering our environment and also making sure that we continue to grow our city in the most responsible way possible. So really looking forward to getting to work, very excited for this opportunity. I want to make sure that I make my expertise in terms of state grants, programs that we could apply to of use for the commission and for the city. And like Anita, I also sit on the committee for AB 617 here locally. So really excited to try to make some intersectionality between that group and the work we're doing here in this commission to improve our air quality. So very excited to be here and look forward to working with you all.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And Sarah commented before we started that it's been a little while since we had a full commission, and we're looking forward to having a full commission, all the commissioners, and we can get a lot of work done, accomplished this year. So thank you very much and welcome once again. All right, moving on, we'll go to item number 8, the Clean California Local Grant Program. So I'll concede the floor to Sarah and to our guests, Sandy and Kristen.
Sandy and Kristen work for Blaze and Associates. They're a grant writing company who have helped us get quite a few grants. And lately, or just recently, there was a grant called the Clean California Local Grant Program. And we hired Sandy and Kristen to help us write up this proposal. So I'm going to let them talk about a little bit about the background and what the grant is, and a little bit about what we're thinking about doing as well. And I'll jump in on that part as well. But if you could start with the background and all of that would be great. Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much, Sarah. Thank you, commissioners, for having us. And B&A Blaze and Associates is thrilled to be working with your Public Works Department on this application. It is from, I'm going to go over the application just really pretty quickly, the details of what the state is looking for, and then I'll pause and ask for questions at that point, and then I'll dive into, along with Sarah, a little bit about how the city is proposing to, or what the city is proposing to submit. So the Clean California Local Grant Program is a program out of Caltrans. It's a competitive program statewide, and the whole idea behind the program is to create beauty and clean up the local streets and roads and tribal lands, parkways, parks, transit centers, and other public spaces. So as you know, the state has seen a lot of extra trash over the last several years, and they've spent nearly $1 billion in this initiative. And so there's a lot of funding there, and it's over multiple years. However, this is a 1-year grant opportunity. Those funds don't get to continue. So in this particular initiative, they're looking to include litter abatement efforts, state beautification, safety projects, and public education campaigns. And again, it is primarily focused around litter abatement, but you'll hear there's some other goals. And those goals, those goals are to reduce the amount of waste and debris within the public right-of-ways, enhance, rehabilitate, restore, and install measures to beautify and improve public spaces and mitigate the heat, the urban heat island effect, enhance public health, cultural connections, and community placemaking by improving public spaces and walking and recreation. And then the fourth goal is to advance equity in underserved communities. So the city is eligible to apply for up to $5 million. The city, because of it being in a disadvantaged community, the project scope that, or the project area that has been identified is qualifies for zero match. And so that is because it qualifies as an underserved community, and in your case, in this area, a severely underserved community. And they actually extend that to a quarter mile beyond the project site. So when we talk about the project site, what the state looks for is a quarter mile distance beyond the actual project components. The project is a 24-month basically timeframe. The funds have to be expended by June 30th of 2024 so that all grant reporting is completed by the end of December in 2024. And the project types that are available is basically litter abatement and education efforts, and then a combination of some things. And so without getting into all those details, which we're happy to share with you, basically they want to see some urban greening, they want to see active transportation, like I mentioned, walking, riding bicycles, and of course, you know, in improving greenhouse gas emissions, or reducing, I should say, greenhouse gas emissions, and also sequestering those emissions with trees where applicable. So they have, they want shovel-ready projects, and they're very emphatic about the project being completed by June of 2024. And that is a big portion of the project, is can you really get what you're saying completed by then? The program is very prescriptive, which is very Caltrans, and very point focused. So we've worked with the Public Works Department to help them design, and with, is it NAI Consulting, for the city to identify a project that fits into what the city's sustainability plan already outlines: active transportation plan, state routes to school plan, general plan. So the project is a byproduct of those things, but you pick a little bit of those, each of those elements, and you package it into, now what is the state willing to pay for? So it's a little bit of a one of those anomalies, I will say, as far as getting to choose your grant programs. So the team has gotten to pretty much design this project to fit to this grant application. And so we're looking at all those components currently, and Sarah and her team are working diligently to find more ways to earn points. And sometimes that's by putting in a trash can, they'll give you a point for that. And sometimes it's for planting a tree, and some of those elements that the city may not want, or those that the project doesn't warrant. And so, you have to be willing to give up a few points here and there, but the city does qualify very well in most of the components as far as being qualified as a disadvantaged area that's being served. With that, do you have any questions about the actual grant program before we describe the project?
I don't have any questions of what you described. I'm assuming you're going to go over the itemized, or sorry, go over the projects that we qualify for. We're going to come and shoot for. Is that correct?
We're going to go over what we have as far as a project description so far. And then you may all want to contribute some ideas, or however Sarah would like to lead that. I'll let her kind of go, guide that. Because we just write what y'all want us to do, and help guide you where you will be the most successful in having a competitive project. We know you're eligible, so now it's, what can we do to help increase the competitiveness? You ready for me to dive into that?
Well, Anita has a question real quick, so Anita, go ahead.
Yeah, my question is, what is the deadline for this submittal, please?
Oh, good question. It is on February 1st. And so we will be submitting, our goal is to submit always 24 hours ahead or at least a day ahead to give ourselves some room. So it would be, I think, on Monday, the 31st of January.
Okay, so as you go through this, you're probably going to give us a little heads up about, or I guess by the end, on when you would want input, considering it's next week, Monday, right?
You got it.
Okay, thank you. Alrighty.
Yeah, this was a tight deadline and it got even tighter with it being issued right before the holidays and with all the people being out for various illnesses and vacations. So, okay, the project description and I'll tell you the project location that has been identified is the Jackson Street from between Kenner Street and Avenue 45. So just south of I-10 down to basically Indio Boulevard. Again, this site was identified because it does serve the disadvantaged community and helps the city get full maximum points, including a $0 match for the up to $5 million project. The project is called the Jackson Street Corridor Project. It will serve and beautify approximately 1 mile of Jackson Street. And it is some of the project components that have been identified. And I will say that they are still being discussed. There's still room for input. There's still a lot of work to do. So nothing, I mean, Sarah, you'll have to kind of address what's open for room to put in and not, based on the city's plans and budget and all. This project can be infrastructure and non-infrastructure. The city has chosen to do a little of both, which means there'll be obviously infrastructure and then the education and community outreach component to do some cleanup activities and also to do some education activities and possibly tie that to maybe one of the community festivals that you do. It could be, I think there's a biking event or something that would potentially use that corridor and maybe do a ceremony around that or a ribbon cutting or something. You get points for those kind of things. So they're very much encouraging publicity of their funding for this project. So to address goal number 1 of reducing the amount of waste and debris, the city is proposing to put new solar powered big belly trash cans, like I believe you're using in another portion of the city, and that those waste receptacles would be placed in strategic locations along that corridor on Jackson Street. They would be, there would be a call for projects to have artists help design art that would be used to wrap those big belly trash cans. And then the community cleanup activities would be basically some social media outreach methods, just, pick up litter type of campaigns. And you would tie into the Andrew Jackson Elementary School to do some activities so that they maybe do some trash cleanups in their neighborhood or on the campus or even along Jackson Street. In order to address goal number 2, which is improving public space for walking and recreation, the city would like to add some shade producing canopies and also potentially some trees, because there's not many trees, as you're probably familiar with, on Jackson Street, and that would provide cooling for people walking along that corridor, and in addition sequester the greenhouse gas emissions. Number 3, to address that goal, is the goal being enhance and rehabilitate and restore, to install measures that beautify and improve public spaces, and also to provide more walking and bicycling and active transportation. The city's proposing some public art elements And so another opportunity is to have the City Arts Commission involved with procuring some artists to be able to design some of those shade structures so that it creates art to beautify that corridor. Those typical shade structures. That also will reduce the urban heat island effect. And then goal number 4 of advancing equity for the underserved community. That your project advances the equity by adding these beautifying features and cooling features and encouraging walking and bicycling, particularly for the area around this corridor. And just as a point, I don't know if you care, but I'll mention it to you, is that the community around this portion of Jackson Street, we're using it's a tool called Cal EnviroScreen 3.0 and Senate Bill 535, which has a mapping tool that tells us how this community ranks compared to others in the state. And this area is among the, it's in the 90 to 95th percentile, meaning there's only either 5 to 10% of the population that has worse conditions overall. Now, there's a lot of different categories within that score, such as toxins, water, education, linguistic, just a variety of categories that make up that score. But that is one of the determining factors that we can use is that Cal EnviroScreen. Another one that we could have chosen would have been median household income. And another one is free and reduced meal price, free and reduced meal program. So those are a few of the others that they allow the applicants to qualify their community. We chose the one that would give you the most points. And also they part of the application gives you points for the number of people that project area serves. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to add one last component into that, is that this is also going to be in proximity to the sports park that just received funding. And so we're going to make sure to try and make sure that the connections we're making on Jackson Street it connects over in some way to the sports park, since that's only, a block or half a block or so away from this project area.
Thank you, Kristen. I also will add this, I didn't mention this, is that part of this is to tie into your transportation centers. So this project ties into, it's just a little bit shy of the CV link. And there's a reason for that, and I'll explain that in a minute. And it ties into the transportation hub with the Greyhound station at Indio Boulevard. The reason that we didn't go farther north, and Sarah, please correct me if I'm mistaken, as we inch up literally across Kenner and closer to the freeway, we now get into a community, a census tract that is not disadvantaged. And that tips us into having to provide a match. And that match kicks up at levels. The first level is, I believe, 25%. So part of that reason is to keep that below. And also we know that there's not much between, as far as population, things like that. We're getting you to that, I don't know what you call the bridge, Sarah, but the bridge right before the creek.
Yeah, the I-10 overpass. And ultimately, once you go past Kenner, then you're working on the overpass ultimately. And that is its own project to provide a way of helping getting pedestrians and bicyclists across, which could be improved, but that would be an entirely different project. And because that is a separate project and it's already something that's being considered, and then we didn't want to overlap at all. So we just stopped ultimately where that interchange is and kept the project below that, so that one project that could be done that they're already working on without us kind of interfering and overlapping.
Great. And all of the features being recommended are in the city's public right-of-way. There's no easement requirements. There are no other sites or permissions that need to be obtained. A resolution is not required as part of this application either.
And that was really important because this was a really tight turnaround time and they were looking for shovel-ready projects, which we didn't really have. So we had to find a way to scale this in a way that we really could get this done in 2 years. And if we had to go through a lot of complex environmental processes like CEQA, and if there were other permits that we needed to get, it could really slow it down and jeopardize whether or not we could really finish it in that kind of time. So that's why we kept the project and the things that we decided to do within the right of way moving along.
So the idea is that when they ask you to submit a before picture of your project. So we'll work with Sarah to determine where somebody's going to stand to take that photo. And then they want to have you stand in the exact same spot for the after photo. And so the whole idea is that you'll have this wonderful story with 2 pictures of how it used to look like this. And because of Caltrans Clean California local grant funding, that look what the beautiful transformation that's happened, and that will encourage walking, bicycling, more active transportation, and beautification, reduce litter. The community is now educated more about how to dispose of litter or other, I would even go so far as help educate them on hazardous waste and where to, how to dispose of other types of things. So there's a lot of opportunity within this, and we're just getting it framed. And so do you have any other questions for either Kristen, myself, or Sarah?
So what we'll do, just to make sure everyone has a chance to ask, we're going to go around the table and I'll give everyone a chance to ask their questions. I have 2 quick questions to start off. So what is the dollar amount of the Jackson Street corridor project that you've estimated it would cost, that would get in the grant?
We are working on the budget sheets now, but we're actually meeting tomorrow to finalize exactly what we're going to do. I don't think it's going to be a $5 million project. But I'm not really sure. After tomorrow, we'll have a better idea of what kind of budget we're looking at.
You have,
and a lot of it is going to depend on the shade structure and how that comes out.
Okay. My other question is, it sounds like this grant is specific to a project. So the idea of putting trash cans throughout the city is not something that we could do with this money and with this grant, or something that's more overall city focused we cannot do with this grant. Is that correct?
That's correct. Anywhere you place that trash can and a quarter mile beyond would determine your project site area, which determines your match. So yes, you can, if that would be what you'd want to do. However, you would probably have a 1-to-1 match.
Okay, all right. That's all the questions I have. So Anitha, do you have, what are your questions?
I was wondering, I'm trying to scroll and look myself here. Do you perchance have a diagram? First of all, I think it's a wonderful opportunity and much needed. So, it's great that you're working on this, but I just wondering, do you have a little bit of a layout on where this is, a map, something? PowerPoint?
Sarah, do you have, I don't know if you've got your project description, your little map that's in your project description might suffice.
Yeah,
I've got it here. I don't know if I can share based on your controls. I
You should
can
be able
try.
to share your screen.
Would you like me to?
Yes, that would be great.
Okay,
Thank
let's
you.
give it a try here. All right. Can you
that's
see
perfect.
my screen? Okay, let me zoom in a little bit. Okay. So I apologize because this is a little bit, can you see that? Does that help? You see the I-10 corridor comes along here.
Mhm.
Okay, and this is the Cal Enviro screen map that I mentioned. This is 3.0 that they've allowed us. Here's that the bridge that we just spoke
Right.
about. Mhm.
Correct.
Where
Mhm.
Kenner comes in, it's the point of the blue arrow. And then the project goes continues south on Jackson down to 42nd, is that correct? And terminates
To
there.
45.
Oh, thank you. 40. Okay.
So spatially speaking wise, if we're looking at this, it's within a few feet of that stretch of Jackson Street. Is that what it is? It's spanning the.
It's a 1 mile distance. Does that answer your question? I'm not sure I answered your question, but the project area or the
Yes.
yeah, project boundaries are the 1 mile Jackson Street on both sides of the street.
Okay. Yeah, that's
And-
it. Thank you.
Mhm.
The right of way on both of those sides, is between 8 and 10 feet. In some areas it's 8 feet and some it's 10, but it's enough room to allow us to do the work.
Jerry, do you have any questions?
No, that's, I drive that area quite often to get to the freeway. And definitely, that's a good area to start.
All right, thank you.
It needs it.
Thank you. Miguel, do you have any questions?
I think Anita and Morgan, you took a couple of mine. The only other one I would have is just to clarify if there's going to be any street improvements, or is it mostly on the sidewalks where there'll be the urban greening efforts and the shading as well as the trash cans?
That the Sarah and the team, but Sarah, one of the things I'll mention is we found that the storm, let me see if I get these words right. The trash capture devices that, are for stormwater capture, you can put screens in there. So maybe consider those. The city, I think, is required to have so many of those, installed throughout the city. And so that is a way for the city to get a project in that they have to do and potentially funded through this grant. So I don't know if that would be included in the scope, but I'll let Sarah answer.
I honestly hadn't even thought of that, and I walked that street trying to come up with, a couple of times coming up with this project, and I didn't look at inlets. I didn't even think to. I know that there's 3 Sunline stops on between the 2 sides of the street, and each one has a trash can, and that's the only place where there's a trash can. It's pretty, hot. There's really not shade. There's a lot of empty lots where a lot of litter collects. I mean, there's definitely things that we can work on with this grant, but I never looked at the storm drain. So maybe I'll bring it up tomorrow at the meeting and see if we have some storm drains out there, we can include them.
Thank you, and thank you all for the work on this.
Thank you. Anybody have any final comments or questions they want to ask? If not, the only thing I'd like to add is, and not to sound cheeky, but if we can max out this as much as we can, get as much dollars out of this as we can, come up with whatever you can to get the 5 million, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, and
if you don't mind, I would like to share my screen for a minute and kind of give you an idea what we're looking at, or what I would kind of envision for the shade structures, just so you know. It's not going to be cheap, but this is something that was designed in another area, and this is looking down on the, in this case, it's just a public gathering area, but all of this was built to be this shade structure. And this is another view from underneath it. So, I mean, if we really, and we're going to max this out as best we can, I guess is what I want to say. And so when we say shade structures, we really mean to help these shade structures be a place-making part of this, not just providing shade, but to really uplift this road and around this community and this entrance into the city. So
Great.
we're gonna max it out as best we can.
Yeah, and including solar lighting, things like that, if there's ways to do that as part of this, yeah, it is a beautification, and boy, what an asset that would bring to your community. We'll do our very best to to write as creatively as possible to support this community. So thank you for letting us be of service.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank
your
you.
presentation.
Mhm.
All right, with that, we will move on to item number 10, low greenhouse environment. And Sarah, I'll concede the floor to you for this.
All right, it's we're going to go back to 9, which is the plan.
Oh, okay, excuse me. Go ahead.
All right. First of all, I think that we should start with a little bit of the background. I think in 2020 it was that the City Council finalized commissions and city commissions and set some rules about how they would operate, and they obviously included the Sustainability Commission. And one of the things that the Sustainability Commission is meant to do in this ordinance is to come up with a sustainability plan and then bring it to the City Council and recommend its adoption. So we started working on this plan for a while, but at this point with new commissioners and we have a new branding, it might be worth making sure that we look at this, I think, from the beginning again. So the way we put this plan together is we have to do a sustainability plan. We also have to do an annual work plan, and we are supposed to bring that to the commission or to the council each year as well. So what we decided to do with this plan is kind of bring those two things together. So we would make a sustainability plan. It would have some overall information, which we have at the beginning, and then as we get into the chapters with the goals, the annual work plan is kind of set aside to it next to potential projects. So the idea is we're going to come up with, I think, the things that we can do each year. And then next to that, when the City Council looks at this, there's potential projects as well. And they can kind of move things around if they feel something is more important or give us feedback in that way. And both are right there if they'd like to swap out, another project for the year versus something that we were working on or that we thought we would work on that year. That would give them an opportunity to do that. It also kind of gives them a larger picture of what we could be doing and what we're thinking about doing. We brought the plan together in that way, and it's meant to act as the annual work plan as well. So we just bring it back every year with what we've done, some of the accomplishments, and some of the potential projects. So it's laid out like that, and then for each chapter as well, there are the accomplishments that we have done. So we can kind of keep a running track record of how things are going with the city, and the projects that have to do with sustainability are kind of in one place. So if anyone asks, what are you doing? We can just kind of come to this plan and open it up and take a look at what's there and talk about that pretty easily. It's sectioned into 5 chapters, which almost mirror the Indio Climate Action Plan chapters. There's a lot of overlap, a lot of things and projects can really fit in more than one very easily. And the last one that we have is the kind of a sustainable environment, land use, and transportation, which I believe we wanted to make sure that we could capture everything. Even though there's a lot of overlap and a lot of things could fit in different places, we didn't want to leave anything out. And this goal and chapter was just to make sure that we could capture everything that we wanted to do if it didn't fit in something else. Right now, the city is going through a new branding. It will have a new logo, and we're going to learn about that next month, but that means that the overall look of this might change a little bit. We want the colors to match the new branding. We're going to want the cover to be branded in the new way. So all that will change. And I think that when I talked to Commissioner Liu, she asked about budgets. We can talk about projects all we want, but budgets are important to completing projects, obviously. And it's been quite a while since I brought the budgets to the Sustainability Commission. So I will bring that back again so that when we look through this again, you'll have an idea of what we have funding for, and that will help kind of prioritize, obviously, what we can do in the work plan each year. But that's the overall look of it. That's kind of how we set it up. Because it is going to change with the new branding, it's a good time to go through and make sure everybody is comfortable with how it's laid out and how it's set up. Because when we do take this to the City Council, it's ultimately your plan. And I want to make sure that everyone is comfortable with what goes forward to the City Council.
Anybody have
And that
any,
is the overall conversation, and then for the rest of the agenda, we'll get into the details of what's in it.
anybody have any questions for Sarah right now regarding the plan?
Our schedule for sending this plan back, please, what is that?
You mean to the City Council?
Yes, to the City Council.
How comfortable are you with the plan? I would say that the branding will get done next month.
Mhm.
So the overall look of it will be fine, but it's really a matter of how and when you feel comfortable bringing this forward. It could be that you're pretty close to how it is, you're pretty comfortable with how it is right now, we don't have to do too much, and then we could take it pretty quickly, or you might want to take it a little longer. It's really going to be up to all of you. What will happen is that I will bring this back as a voting item to recommend it to the City Council, and then you'll all vote to do that or not to do that. So when you're ready for me to bring it back like that, that's when it goes.
Sarah, are you looking for input on this from new members and current members, or are you yourself comfortable with it as it stands, or are you looking for more from us?
I'm looking at it more from the new commissioners. We've looked at this for a while and talked about it, and I'm pretty comfortable with it. I do think that since we have new commissioners, that we should, take the time to look at it again, and to make sure that when we do bring it up for a vote, that everybody will approve it. Everybody's had their chance to say about what they want to go to the City Council. So I think it's fine. Because we have to do the new branding, it is going to be another month. But if you're comfortable with it, I can bring it back with the new branding next month, or you can push it back to March. That is up to you.
My thought is to give the new commissioners and us old commissioners 30 days, since there's gonna be new branding. You are gonna probably have a new layout to give us this time frame to the next meeting to submit to you notes or suggestions to go through and maybe make those changes by the next meeting, so we could sort of combine any changes and new ideas and new stuff contributed by the new members into the new format, and then we can review it by the next meeting, and maybe then motion to approve it or make some changes, and then by March have a finalized draft ready to go for the council, if that makes sense to everybody.
Well, let me ask the new commissioners, during this 30-day period before Sarah has the new branding, would you feel comfortable reviewing this and then emailing her any thoughts or suggestions you might have? It's always good to have more eyes take a look at it. I just would sort of give you an overview as that what we tried to do when we developed this is we tried to take the sustainability plan that we have here and the annual work plan, combine them together. And then in all cases, we reviewed it to show intent and we wanted to follow what the state guidelines were for sustainability. So our intention in a lot of these areas and the terminology is geared towards moving in that general direction so that we show continuity for our sustainability in our annual work plan, along with the guidelines from the county and the city and the state. So if you've got, if you think you can input that maybe in the 30-day period, I think it's important to move forward as fast as we can and not procrastinate.
I don't have any problem with that at all from my side. The only information, you know, and I guess not that it's going to be mind blowing or whatever. It's much of an action item is the cost, and I assume the approach is that we do what we can because I'm assuming that we haven't priced out any of these programs as yet. So, but I'd be curious to see that. I don't know how that can be released to us, Sarah, but you can let us know. So I've already taken a look at it, an initial look, and made some notes, but I have no idea of the cost. And then the other question that I have in terms of procedure, administrative procedure, does this have to go for a public notice before we bring it to the city council, or how does that work, please?
That's a good question. And what we decided to do was to make sure that it was part of the agenda and that we publicly talked about it and talked through it during the meeting, and that would allow the period for public comment. And it's been several meetings where we've brought it up and had it on the agenda and accessible. And so I believe it's been through it's been at least available to the public, and it's on the agenda, so it's announced.
So are we allowing them input, or so when the meeting notice goes out, does it say you can provide input?
Well, it doesn't say that specifically about the plan, but it does say on the notice for the agenda that there's always time for items not on the agenda. No, it's not specific to the plan. To the sustainability. Right. We would.
But you're saying we're saying that now, and this is a public meeting, so.
If I may interject,
yes.
I think what Sarah's saying
is
sorry.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Is Sarah saying that the public comment item number 5 on our agenda covers the public comment on any of the items in the agenda, so that would include the plan. That answers your
very
question.
Good. Okay, very good. Those were my administrative or procedural questions. Alrighty.
Yeah.
Thanks. No worries, Sarah.
Well, I do want to clarify that under 5, public comment is for items not on the agenda. And I actually was thinking the same thing you were, Commissioner Benson, until I looked down at that again. It's for items not on the agenda. There are portals and there's an opportunity for public comment on that plan specifically during the meeting, but it's not specific, like you said, on the agenda like that. But that is why we have these conversations and talked about this during the meetings, to make sure that if there were comments, we could receive them.
Okay, so can we at the next meeting add a public comment specifically for the plan? Is that possible? As well as items not on the agenda?
Yeah, let's yes.
Let's see if we can do that, and then cover our bases with that, and because hopefully what happens is we'll have a more complete. We'll have the input from the new commissioners and input there, and have as complete a final draft as possible, and then public comment on that, and we can incorporate whatever may come up in that, and then move forward. So with that, Miguel, do you have any comments or questions about the next 30 days reviewing it and submitting ideas and suggestions and feedback?
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Similar to Anita, I have reviewed and have some comments. I guess my question for Sarah would be, how specific would you like us to get, or would you prefer us to have a grander overview? Just looking at this, I came up with some very targeted projects that I think would be beneficial. And I want to know, should I include those, or should I try to keep it more as an overview of possibilities to achieve our goals?
No, I think all the detail, the better. Whatever you have ideas for.
Right.
Great. Do we need to motion on this, Sarah, and vote on it, or is this administrative and we can kind of just move on?
No, it's not. There's no motion on this yet till we finalize it, but I really think you and Commissioner Liu for bringing up, you should advertise a little more about the public comment. I'll do that.
Cool. Thank you very much. So now item 10, low greenhouse environment. Sarah?
Right. Well, there's no update under the low greenhouse gas environment, number 10.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Sarah regarding item number 10? If not, we'll move on to item number 11, zero waste, clean and beautify city program idea. Now that's the one that that we voted on last fall, is that correct?
That's correct. So last fall, the city manager came to the Sustainability Commission and talked about Keep America Beautiful and the possibility of becoming an affiliate with the organization. And the Sustainability Commission approved a recommendation to City Council to go ahead and become an affiliate. And that's still kind of in the air right now, and there's several reasons for it, but we've done the part of making the recommendation. However, the ideas of beautifying the city and those kinds of projects are still things that are very high on the council members and city managers list. And there were several projects that we talked about that we don't necessarily need to be under the umbrella of Keep America Beautiful to do. We can still do those kinds of projects. And since it's something that is important right now for the city council, I thought that we might talk about those again, because again, even if we don't move along with Keep America Beautiful, we can still come up with projects, and there is funding for litter and trash and waste diversion projects. I do want to let you know that since we had that meeting with the city manager, I did attend a talk from, his name is Scott Coffin, who works with the State Water Board, and apparently there's a bit of controversy with Keep America Beautiful. It's a good organization that does good things, but keeping that focus on, we just need to keep cleaning up after ourselves rather than source reduction and things like that is an important part of, we need to open up if we're really going to help keep litter off the street and pollution. We need to open it up a lot wider than we just have to clean up after ourselves. And you can, if you like, look into that. The other thing is that Keep America Beautiful has a bit of administration to it, and if we stay out from under that umbrella, we might still be able to run some projects without necessarily having the administration portion of having to do that, taking staff time to do that as well.
So if I understand what you're saying correctly, is that we can, the recommendation we made to the city council is still floating around with the city council. They haven't voted up or down on that at all. And you're saying now in this sort of limbo time we have with the council, we can do what Keep America Beautiful proposes to do, but we can do it on our own and not be a part of the Keep America Beautiful scheme, for lack of a better term. Is that correct?
That is correct. And Keep America Beautiful is a really good litter cleanup program, but I believe when we talked about this before with the city manager, there were some other ideas as well. And these are the kind of things I think that would be good if we could solidify them, make them recommendations for the city council.
So to give you a little bit of my overview of it is in the last year, the city council has taken more of an active stance on beautifying the city. So what's happened is a lot of initiatives and a lot of directions are going in that vein, whereas maybe a year, 18 months ago, they weren't that centered on those projects. So what's happened is that I think they have now a very direct involvement in trying to beautify the city, based a lot of it on the input of the survey that they did from the citizens and what the citizens wanted the city to do to improve.
So Sarah, what is the actionable item that you need from us regarding this right now?
Okay, so what I want to do is, one, keep the conversation going on what we might recommend to beautify the city. The same kind of things that when we talked about Keep America Beautiful, I think we talked about working with some of the commercial facilities on a broader basis, getting our litter program up and off the ground, things like that. But we need to just clarify it in a way where we can make a recommendation so that it's a solid recommendation. And then we can't do it tonight. We can talk about it. We can get these things started. But once we get something that you guys are comfortable with, then it comes back as a voting item to send to city council as a recommendation.
Okay, so if we
There
could.
is a big push for beautification, and I did also want to mention that they are having cleanup events, and I will send you those times and dates as well. City council, city managers out there, you're more than welcome to come out and volunteer and help with those events as well.
I recall there being a PowerPoint presentation for Keep America Beautiful. Is that, am I recalling that correctly? We did see some stuff when it was presented. I was thinking if we could send that.
A presentation with.
Okay, so if you could resend that to all the commissioners, or have that resent to all the commissioners, so the new commissioners can get up to speed of exactly what Keep America Beautiful is and what we voted on. And then from there, not to be the chairperson that gives everybody homework all the time, but from there we can get input from everybody. And maybe at the next meeting, we can go through the ideas and we can pick the ones that we want to focus on, if that makes sense. Do we need to go ahead, Anita?
Question, this Keep America Beautiful program, or, whatever modification of that we come up with, does that tie into the sustainability plan?
It did. It did in the sense about, litter abatement and
Okay.
stuff like that, yes.
All right, we don't specifically have it there. I mean, I might have skipped over it, and there is one. We don't specifically call it out in there.
No.
Okay. All right.
It was sort of another separate item. And sorry, correct me if I'm wrong in the summation. It was a ancillary item on top of that plan that kind of came up. It was presented to us that we could take advantage of, that, would be helpful to the commission, to the council, and to the city.
Yes, we need it.
So do we need a motion on this or is it, again, administrative, Sarah?
It's administrative and ultimately homework.
All right, so unfortunately, everybody getting homework tonight. All right. All right, with that, does anyone have any questions regarding item number 11, zero waste? All right, if not, we'll move on to item number 12, water resources. Sarah?
And I really don't have any updates for water resources.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Sarah about that? All right, no questions. We'll move on to 13, sustainable environment, land use, and transportation. Sarah, go ahead.
There's no updates on that right now either.
All right. And again, anybody have any questions for Sarah about that? All right, and then if not, we will move on to commissioner comments. So I'll go around the table. I have no comments. Anita, do you have any comments for the commission?
I have a question on locating, as you were mentioning, Commissioner, the background documents for some of these, like the one that is a problem area for all of us as residents is the recycling. And I guess it was around a couple of years ago when our options for recycling were greatly diminished because we can tell people to pick it up and keep it up and this kind of thing. But we really do need some of those incentives, especially in I think it helps in the lower income census areas where people have the options to get reimbursed without having to drive miles to get their things recycled. And I'm imagining that this was something that would have been discussed and debated within the city offices at some point in time. So I'm trying to think of a shortcut to see what was arrived at. Like, did we talk to Burke Tech or anything before I make comments? Did we have some alliance with them or something to that effect? Or any of these background documents, how would we find them?
That's a good question. I don't know that we have any necessarily. There's specific documents to why a lot of the deposit collection centers closed.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, it came from the markets overseas shutting down and then the material not really having any value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why a lot of the replanets that were at the supermarkets closed down. And it's ultimately something they're probably going to have to fix at the state level.
Mm-hmm.
There is, Anissa, CalRecycle put out a grant to allow some of the cities to apply for what they call pilot projects to help bring some of those opportunities back. And I can send it to you for sure. I'll send it out to all the commissioners so you can look at it.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, in the big picture, it's a state level thing. We can try and do what we can here for Indio, for sure. I can bring back a couple options, and what I'll do is I'll send out that grant if it's still open, and if you have ideas that might fit that, then bring them back to the next commission and I'll put it on the agenda.
Okay, that was where my question was really regarding background documents or any past things. And I guess I can always go back to the previous online meetings on the discussion of this plan to perhaps find some of that. So that was really my question on the document itself, but I like the layout. It's very readable and very easy to understand for folks, and that's what I think is good about it. It lays out our items versus items for residents, so I think it's very useful in that sense. Thank you.
If I can, before I go to Jack, I'm gonna a real quick question for Sarah. What Anita brought up. Are you talking about the Sarah? Are you talking about the document, the Statewide Commission on Recycling Markets and Curbside Recycling Final Report? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I was just talking about kind of the background to why a lot of these redemption centers closed and things like that. And I really don't have any documents on that, so I wouldn't know.
Because I do believe when we had the Statewide Commission on Recycling Markets and Curbside recycling final report. We did not make quorum for that meeting, so we never had a chance to discuss that. And I know in that document, there's talk about, the state was talking about increasing the deposit on new items like wine bottles was one thing they talked about, and doing more stuff like that. So maybe that ties into what Anita was talking about.
Understood. And you know what? There's a new report, a little bit updated, and I will send that to all of you. I just made a note, so I can put that on the next agenda as well.
Great, thank you. Jack, do you have any comments?
No, I'm fine.
All right, thank you. And Miguel, do you have any comments?
A couple of things I just want to touch on briefly. As far as I don't know if this is more of a budget question or a procedural thing. What is the capability of this commission to do public workshops and things along those lines, specifically for the point that Anita brought up earlier of the sustainability plan and getting public input into that, as to host a workshop or something where the public can come, look over the plan and discuss some ideas there in I don't want to say more informal setting, but in a setting where it doesn't necessarily have to be a meeting day for us.
I believe that you can do that. That shouldn't be a problem at all. I mean, I'll run the information up through the channels here, but I think that they would love that. And it's not something that you can't do that's procedurally prohibited or anything like that. Talking about what we're doing here and getting that out, that message out and connecting with the residents is definitely part of what this commission is asked to do.
Perfect. I think that'll be a real useful tool if we can try to do that in the next couple of weeks to try to get some input there in terms of that plan. And then my secondary comment is really just highlighting what an incredible job you did. It sounded like it was very last minute for the Clean California Grant Program. So putting that together and also just thinking about for these future opportunities, how beneficial it will be to have either through the sustainability plan or just another list, a running list of projects that when those opportunities do arise, we already have some ideas of things we can target and try to implement and shift to meet the criteria of whatever grants are out there. So I think that would be a real benefit as to when we get this sustainability plan finalized, is having ideas as to what we can specifically go to when these last minute opportunities arise, but we have something to go off of already. But other than that, really enjoyed this first meeting and look forward to continuing this work.
Great, thank you, Miguel. Appreciate that. Anybody else? Last chance for a comment? All right, so we'll move on to staff items. Sarah?
Okay, I think just as a wrap up, I need to send that Keep America Beautiful PowerPoint around again. I'll send out the pilot program and the commission report. I'll put the commission report on the agenda. Also, some of the waste, the 1383 should be on the agenda. I'll look into what we can put together for a public meeting. And then whatever ideas you have, if there are things that you want to talk about at the next meeting, just email them to me in the next couple weeks and I'll build them into the agenda as well. And that's.
And remember, Sarah, you were going to add the food waste to the agenda?
Yep, we'll need to put that on the agenda. And the next meeting, we're going to get I think we get the input and the final input for the sustainability plan, so it'll be in March that we'll go ahead and make that a voting. The plan is to make that a voting item in March.
Yeah, so we're gonna look at the input and whatever additions and stuff in February, and then have that final draft in March for the vote to send to council.
Okay.
Great.
Great.
All right, so I'm going to motion to adjourn at 6:39 p.m. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, thank you. All in favor? I vote aye. Anita?
Aye.
Miguel?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes 4-0. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sarah.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah,
Thank
for
you.
the work you're doing. And
Yeah.
we got your homework, so we'll see you in a month.
Yeah.
And appreciate it.
Okay,
Take care.
thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Have a good evening, everyone.